out in the budget book, and not because we didn't previously have this information in the budget book, but because we've stopped and actually are reflecting it a little bit differently. So on page 3, so let's see, can we flip
Plus
it?
they're pretty color.
They are very pretty.
Yes, thank you.
welcome.
Thank you. It was a combination, Brooke Garver and Brooke Goo. So I applaud them, because a lot of times it's hard to look and read all these numbers and all these words. But if you look at the top half, you will see that we're reflecting general fund revenues. So again, it's the revenues and the dollars that you see on the first page. And again, you're going to see them throughout the entire rest of the book, broken down by category. But if you look, you see that by far the biggest component is that dark blue. And when you look at the chart, that of course is our total property taxes. It's a visual. It helps people see, where does the majority of our money come from? And you can see that at the top. Again, we're reflecting it for fiscal year 21 estimated actual, as well as fiscal year 22 budget. The bottom half of that chart is exactly the same thing. And again, it takes all the information from the first 2 pages and it lays it out on the expenditure side by different areas and departments. And you will see at a visual, there is a huge, at least half the chart is red. And when you look at red, it's public safety. Again, public safety, police, fire, code administration, and signal. If you flip the next page, this chart is just one more way to look at the expenditures. And let's see if I can get it to work. I will say that we kind of plagiarized and adopted this chart after 2 former council members found it and really liked it and thought that visually it made things more transparent. One former council member who is still sitting, and that would be Councilmember McIntyre, as well as our new Mayor Keller. So thank you. I will say we love this chart. It by far probably took us it was one of the areas that took us the most because of all the formatting. But this just goes back, when we say expenditures and we say departments, basically what we're saying is, where are we spending your money as a community? The money that we get from our community and our citizens, how are we spending it and where does it go? So again, you can see general government, $6.2 million in our fiscal year 22 budget, which is, if you look at the little bubbles within the chart, general government, $6.2 million, 13% of our total $48.6 million is going to the area of general government. Likewise, if you look, you'll see the dollars reflected, as well as the little bubbles right above in the pictures will tell you the overall percentage. So just, again, a nice overall visual, and hopefully it makes things a little bit easier for some people to see, and again, exactly shows how much of your money and which percentage in our total $48.6 million goes to which categories.
Next, we're going to look at general fund revenues in a little more detail. Page 5 of section 2 breaks out the $48.6 million of proposed FY22 general fund revenue. The largest source of revenue is property taxes at $33 million. This makes up about 68% of total revenues. Income and other taxes is the next highest funding source at $4.4 million. With income taxes making up $2.8 million of that total. And then each line item here has its own dedicated page that we'll get to here in a minute. The next page is the city's assessable base and property tax revenue. There are no proposed city tax rate changes for FY22.
And I just want to take a moment. This is the only document in our budget book that actually reflects all of the tax rates that are assessed. So you will see in the right-hand column, you'll see the city tax rate, the county tax rate that is charged to a city resident, as well as the state of Maryland tax rate that is charged, for an overall combined total of real estate taxes that are charged and assessed to a city resident. And at the bottom, I'm sorry, this is one thing that I know a lot of council asks. So with the increase that we are hoping and anticipating to see in our assessable base and our market values, each penny, every penny on the tax rate generates $273,000.
The next few pages are the details behind each revenue line item. Each page consists of a chart that indicates each revenue line item is composed of, an overview, a section that compares adopted FY21 to estimated actual FY21, and adopted FY21 to proposed FY22. There's also a chart at the bottom that indicates the fluctuation of each type of revenue through or since FY19.
So as Brooke said, on that revenue chart, for each line, there's a page. And so to piggyback with the question that Councilmember Brucci asked, if you look at page 10, and I don't have page 10 for those of you at home, I'm very sorry, it is a little bit more detail on intergovernmental revenue component. That grand total will match back to what we've seen previously. You will see where the increase is, and as Brooke has mentioned, we have information there that just talks a little bit about why the big fluctuation. So again, you can see it's in that one line, it says CARES Act, $1.4 million.
Michelle,
Yes, I'm sorry.
just out of curiosity, and I'm sure that it's somewhere in this 400-plus page document, what is our total assessed value within the city limits of Hagerstown?
So if we go back to section 2, page 6, we have a 15-year chart here, and we also have this chart minus the actual tax rate portion in our financial projections section, which is section 6. So if you look in the assessed value here, again, I have it reflected for fiscal year 22, so for all, and this would be all categories. Now, this does not include personal property. This is only real estate, $2.8 billion, and then underneath just the apartment category is
Right,
$246 million.
Gotcha, okay.
Okay.
Like I said, I knew it was there, I just
Now, that's a good
saved me
question.
time and fun.
I was so busy focusing everybody on this chart to show you the actual tax rate, but again, the assessed value is there, and it's on another chart that we can look at. Same chart.
Gotcha.
Okay, then starting on page 15 of section 2 are general fund expenditures, which total $48.6 million. This is a section where you'll find expenditures broken out by department. Each department has the same general format, but I was thinking using police tonight as an example since they're have a more involved and more information, and they are on page 47. There's a program overview, program objectives, performance indicators, which are statistics that are supplied by each department, an expenditure and revenue summary, budget highlights and significant changes, such as adopted FY21 to estimated actual FY21, and adopted FY21 to proposed FY22. And then some of the larger departments, like police, have an expenditures by program, which is on page 50. There's also a staffing summary and a graph that shows expenditure fluctuations from FY19.
So while we're stopping on this chart, again, I'm going to go back to page 1 and 2, the summary we talked about, and we had all those expenditures by departments. Again, for every single line in that summary, every single area has this information, just as Brooke has described. The reason that we're following through to provide the example this evening about police is because I think sometimes when I say the words public safety and I say, over 53% of the budget, people think it necessarily means just police. So again, on section 2, page 49, if you look, and again, you can see this for all the general fund departments as well as the enterprise funds. I mean, this level is available and is consistent throughout the other sections until you get to financial projections. But you can see how much, so in total, in fiscal year 22 proposed budget, the police component is 14.7 million with almost 5 million in direct revenue. And when I say direct revenue, I mean things that the police department generate that isn't, like real estate taxes, which goes everywhere in all allocated areas. So things like speed cameras, red light cameras, this is where you'll see their revenues reflected specifically in their department. For a total impact of 12.2 million, and the 12.2 million simply means of the total tax dollars and property tax dollars that we bring in, and other sources like the state income tax. Those things cover this remaining $12.2 million. The breakdown on this first, and again, it's like this for every area, we break down and provide information for salaries and wages versus other things like contractual services and overall operating. If you flip the page and go to page 50, it's broken down by specific specialty units or other components specifically within police. So the very first line says police administration, that $957,000 is reflective of everything they have there, whether it's staff, contract services. It's just another way to break down and see the same total expenses of 14.7 million, just the areas of where we're spending it the most. And then at the bottom, you'll have the staffing chart. And the staffing chart is nice because we do provide the information on the salaries and wages. So a lot of times people like to see the specific number in staff that goes back to those salaries and wages. Next but not least, we're going to go ahead and look at section 6 and talk about the general fund for just a little bit longer. So in section 6 on page 3, so in the financial projection section, it's not a specific fund. It's all of our major funds. So first, you're going to find information for the general fund. It is not going to be reflected in dollars, but it's going to be reflected in thousands. So where you saw for the general fund revenue that in the charts we just looked at, we saw total revenue of $48,568,000, blah, blah, blah. If you look on page 3 and you look and you see 48, it looks like it's 48,569, it's because it's in thousands. So it's still reflecting in the middle column, fiscal year 22 budget, total revenues, which is the bottom number of 48.6 million. The reason this is so important is, we're not always so focused on just what's going to happen, within the next couple months to the end of this fiscal year and in the next fiscal year, but we're looking in the out years. So in the next 4 fiscal years, if nothing else changes and our revenue sources stay the same. So you'll see that there is a highlighted area that says needed revenue source. For instance, fiscal year 23, we need a grand total. So total funding for fiscal year 23 right now, we need about 50.6 million. In highlighted green, you see needed revenue source of 2.7 million. That means to cover all of our ongoing operating expenses, if nothing else changes and we spend all that money, and this is the only new revenue that's generated, we need to find another way to generate an additional 2.7 million. So flip to page 4 in section 6. This is the expense portion, right? So again, financial projections. If you look in the middle column, you're going to see fiscal year 22 budget. At the very top, you see a grand total for total wages and benefits. It's a little bit bolded. And so for fiscal year 22 budget, 31.7 million of all of our expenses in the general fund are in wages and benefits. And again, we looked at that chart a little bit last week. You'll see all of these components we estimate out for the next 4 years. And if we go to fiscal year 23 column, you'll see total expenditures of 50.6, meaning If our wages and our benefits end exactly where we think, and we increase a grand total of another 5.2%, and that sounds like a lot, but that 5.2% would be COLAs, would be steps, would be changes and increases in any of our benefits. If that's the case, that would project out to fiscal year 23 salaries and wages being 33.3 million. We apply that same concept the whole way down, meaning if all of these expenses hit the levels that we think, and if we continue to need those expenditures and items at the same level, again, we would be at 50.6 million. So we'll have to find another way to generate revenue. One more thing, and we'll finish for this evening because it is still a lot of information. And we haven't focused so much on individual numbers because there's no one area or thing in this budget that is substantially different than fiscal year 21. Again, we haven't included any money in here for the American Recovery Act yet, and we will do that separately and subsequently. So there's no one or two big things, and again, we haven't, not asking to increase our real estate and tax base. But to go along with the financial projections, again, because the largest component is wages and benefits, so I just want to take a minute to have everybody look at page 9 of the financial projection section. And what we've done there is provide a little bit more detail so that you can see at the top half, salaries and wages. And at the bottom half, you can see what compromises all the individual benefits. So you'll see things like our pension, specifically our city pension for our police and fire versus how much we pay in dollars for our pension for the state of Maryland. So again, if we look in the middle at fiscal year 22 budget, base wages, and when we say the word base wages, we basically mean everything that you're getting paid in your regular 40-hour work week, minus, of course, overtime. So that's about 20.3 million. You will notice one of the lines right above the total for base wages of 20.3 is a subtraction of $300,000. So what we do, and again, I know we stopped a little bit, talked about the staffing schedule last week, but we budget and assume that every approved position is going to remain funded, which means I have to leave dollars in this budget, because if somebody hires somebody and I've taken away the dollars for that, then they're automatically going to be over budget. But what we do is we, every single year, estimate and include dollar amounts here for what we assume is going to be staff turnover throughout the year. It happens, right? You know, again, the general fund encompasses a lot of different departments. By far and large, our largest area of turnover in dollars has been historically the last 2 years in police department, and Chief Kiefer gave an update last week. But I just want to, because there was mention today at the county about funding for vacancy savings, this is that same concept. It's just that we already incorporate it within our budgets on a routine basis. In addition to that, then we see broken out separately is overtime for our grand total wages of 21.2 million. That number, again, should be the same everywhere you look in these total charts for salaries and wages for the general fund. It should be the same. Then at the bottom half, again, is fringe benefits. If you look, by far, the largest dollar would be on health insurance, and that's about halfway down the chart. So for our active employees, our health insurance just in the general fund is $3 million. Then come down a little bit more, and you'll see where we break out retiree cost. Retiree insurance for health and dental, just for employees that were in the general fund. Again, just the general fund. All the other funds have retiree costs too. 1.5 million. So, 3 million in health insurance for active employees and their dependents. 1.5 million for retirees. Almost half. Those numbers are staggering. Those are by far the largest dollars that we have on the benefits side. But again, just overall, it's good information in case somebody asks. It's good information for you to be able to see how it's broken down in all the different benefit line items that we do provide. Does anybody have any questions on anything we covered this evening?
I just had a question about the $2.7 million deficit for fiscal year '23.
Yes.
I assume that does not take into account the change that the county is making, which is going to decrease our
That is,
revenue.
that is correct. So in the numbers that, in the revenue sources, Brooke mentioned, the second largest revenue source across the general fund is in that total, and I can't flip back to it. Let's take a moment and we will flip to that chart though. So we're gonna go to page, we're gonna go back to section 2 because you can see it dollar for dollar instead of in thousands. And I'm gonna have you flip to page 8. So we had a specific line in our summary in revenues that said income and other taxes for a grand total of about 4.4 million. By far and large, right after real estate taxes, the second largest income source in the general fund, again, without all these special time federal dollars, is income tax. Right now in fiscal year 22 budget, I have it estimated at 2.8 million. That dollar was based on the assumption that there would be no change to the local tax rate, which is currently 3.2%. That rate is set by the counties. 3.2% is the maximum amount the state permits and allows. So again, our 2.8 million, going from 3.2% down to 3% is probably going to cost us an annual of about $190,000. 190,000 is significant. It's, you know, when we say we're losing that much revenue and we say a penny on a tax bill generates $273,000, it's almost a penny on our tax rate. So to make up the difference in a revenue source. But yes, in our fiscal year 23 and our deficit of 2.7, I anticipated that we would continue at the 2.8%, but also have inflation, continue to see growth as things like we rebounded from COVID and more jobs were available and people were making more wages, as well as being able to recruit more businesses in the area that continued to do those payroll taxes.
It would have
Thank
been
you for-
nice if they would have taken into consideration the effects that it has on our budget and the other municipalities' budget before making such a decision in 30 minutes on a live session. It's unfortunate because now we have to figure out how we're going to make up that loss of revenue without really receiving any input. I
Correct.
just felt the need to say that, sorry.
Agreed.
Do you guys have any questions for Michelle or Brooke?
Next week, we'll look at, we'll try to pick out some of the bigger capital projects, and then I want to take a minute next week just to talk about a couple areas where I want to change some funding sources around for projects we've already got lined up and in process. Thank you.
Thank you. I think you're staying. Support services staffing modification?
Oh, I'm next.
Yeah.
I'm like, I need tissue. Sorry, I'm not usually here back to back. Anyway, I'm very sorry. So yes, I'm here this evening. Our support services manager is home right now. She had a procedure and she's been online every single day, but I told her she did not need to log in and participate this evening, that I would do my best to attempt to provide information specifically as it relates to support services. So basically, in our support services area, right now, we have full-time staff and we have part-time staff. And what we are looking, what the request is that we would take 2 of our part-time staff positions and convert one of those to full-time, maintain the second part-time position, but decrease those hours, basically so that we're budget neutral. And one of the primary reasons, and we did include a memo, but one of the primary reasons that this is necessary is that it is extremely, extremely difficult to recruit and retain a part-time person in our support services area. I just want to say that as a part-time position for that area, It's $13 an hour. $13 an hour, probably to work in one of the areas in the city that receives a tremendous amount of feedback, whether it's in person, on the phone, in email. They are touching not just things like cash payments, they're processing and receiving tax payments, but also all of the utilities, electric, water, wastewater, and on top of that, they manage and help oversee the whole cutoff cycle and helping to work with the utility group on the restores, like to get power and water turned back on. And quite honestly, it's a very thankless job. And for $13 an hour, when somebody can go almost anywhere else, right now, a lot of places are hiring. And the reason they're hiring is because the available pool of people to work for part-time is significantly dwindling. The amount and volume of the work downstairs has not decreased. In fact, it's actually increased. And it's not just increased, but it's changed. So did COVID make a change, and did we have the lobby closed to the public at some points in this past year since last March to now? Absolutely we have, but it did not decrease. It actually quadrupled the number of phone calls, the number of emails. So not only is staff making those adjustments and seeing an increase in workload, they're seeing a change and a transition in what that workload looks like in their daily and weekly processes, right? So again, people may not have been paying electric bills, for instance, as routinely as they did pre-COVID, as they are now from last March to here, but it hasn't changed the volume. Customer service and support services worked, diligently with Wes Decker, put out lots of information, stayed in constant communication in touch with our customers, trying to set up payment plans. Again, the overall goal is that this is budget neutral, taking 2 of our existing part-time positions, making one of those full-time, and then reducing the hours for the other part-time in an effort to maintain staffing right now. If you're okay with this, we'll go ahead and put a motion in for next week. The other thing I will mention is that the positions downstairs and the positions in support services, not only trying to keep in mind and keep it budget neutral for the general fund, but then what happens with this whole area is we actually allocate those costs out and back to electric, water, wastewater, stormwater. A portion stays, of course, in the general fund because we do taxes and trash. But again, this change, it impacts across all the funds.
You guys good?
I'm okay with it.
I just have something. I've been down and have witnessed, the very hard work that, the staff does downstairs. It's tremendous. It's so busy. And I am totally okay with this. I do have 2 questions. We had talked about a kiosk at one point, and I also was curious about if there were telephone capabilities to pay your bill on the phone to reduce some of that overwhelming amount of phone calls that they get. I've seen the amount of people in the queue. Are any of those things still being discussed?
Actually, right now, we're in process of working on a software enhancement. I think everybody here already approved, and it's called Invoice Cloud. And Invoice Cloud is going to actually help tremendously with the phone. So I guess I was negligent in mentioning, customers at home, and even myself sitting here in City Hall, I heard, I pay my bill online. I'm thinking, and I pay my bill by phone. I'm thinking, okay, it's like anywhere else that I call, right? No. If you are a customer and you are calling, you're not getting a call center. You're not getting an electronic software where you're pushing in the buttons and paying anything automatically. You're actually sitting in a queue and you are waiting for these 5 to 7 people to take your call and also wait on people who's in the lobby and respond to emails because we have settlement stuff. So these people are sitting in a phone queue and they're waiting to actually talk to a person. One of the changes is that we have done, which is worked to go ahead in the meantime and allow in that phone queue, because previously if you were in the phone queue, you had two options. You either sat in a phone queue or you hung up and redialed and tried somebody else and got put right back in the phone queue, right? So we've added the option that after so many minutes, you can press the button and leave a message for a return call. So hopefully that's going to help. But the whole concept of Invoice Cloud is going to do that for us on the phone. It's going to take away, hopefully, some of that aggravation. It's going to allow so much more information to reach our customers. And again, it isn't just necessarily for the payment side, but it is. You should be able to get your bills and your statements right on your phone. You should be able to get it electronically. You should be able to pay it that way. It should enhance our overall online payment options, because right now, even that isn't very technologically advanced, so that's a struggle too. But it also will have the capability to send alerts and do other things from a customer perspective, from an electrical and an operational perspective, not just electric, but water and wastewater. So one of them, yes, pay by phone and updating of the phone system. We're hoping with Invoice Cloud, it's going to take a big component of that. It's going to take us a couple more months to get it implemented, and then after that, just training, right? Training for staff and training for customers. The kiosk, not at this time, but we can re-look at concept. And maybe I
May
can
18th.
do it with you.
Okay, I haven't forgotten.
Okay.
Well, Munis, the current system was not conducive to even using
Right.
a kiosk. This one is a little more conducive to a kiosk type environment.
Okay, good.
And
But
you're
I'm okay
talking-
with the position. I mean, I'm
Okay.
fine with that.
Good, good,
Good.
you're good.
Thank you both.
Can I use a question?
Oh,
I own some property over on Johnson Street, and somebody broke into my place, and it took, I called from 12 o'clock all the way till 5 o'clock, and nobody come in on the scene, what they did. Well, I left, and the police come down there at 12:30 to check, no, 6:30 to check it out. There's 20 people in the alley constantly selling drugs.
Are-
Every day. The police come down there the other day and they stopped for a while.
So our meetings today aren't for public comment, especially not related to our agenda, but our chief is here. We can get you in touch with our chief to see what can be done.
Who do I
And
talk to?
I can meet you right out here. I'll talk to you for a second.
Can you talk to me?
Yep.
This is the
Absolutely.
first time I was here and I didn't know how it works.
It's okay. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. I apologize. and
It's
thank you.
okay. Thank you. Up next, we have Pcad staffing modification. Kathy, Paul,
Good afternoon.
good afternoon.
I'm Kathy Ma, the Director of Pcad, which is short for Planning and Code Administration Department. Sitting beside me is Paul Folk, who is the Manager of the Neighborhood Services portion of our department. And behind us is Blaine Moen, who's the Chief Code Official, and he is also the Manager of the Code Review and Permitting operations of our department. And we are here today because we have devised a proposed plan to tackle a challenge we are facing on our staffing that would be budget neutral, which is magic words for our finance director, who is scampered out of the room. And the reason why we were looking for a way to tackle this is there's two high priorities identified for BCAD. One, blight eradication, especially vacant abandoned structures, and then providing an extraordinary level of customer service on permit job sites, and then the Office for Quick Plan Review and answering code questions. And we have a couple of challenges meeting those priorities: staffing levels and time in a day, especially as demands in our time are escalating with growing permit activity and inspection requests and more aggressive strategies that we put in place to identify and tackle abandoned vacant properties. The memo in the packet provides a lot of detail background on this, as well as more detail on the plan, which Paul will be happy to go over with you. And if you have any questions about either of these code administration operations, Paul and Blaine are here to answer any questions that you might have.
Budget neutral?
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yep. Good? I'm definitely okay.
You're
We're
welcome,
good.
Paul.
Yes. Paul. Oh, yeah. All right, Urban Improvement Project Plaza and Cultural Trail Phase 2. Rodney.
Good evening. I'm not going to go through a lot of detail. You know all about the project. I just want to give you an opportunity to ask any questions you might have. We're going to ask you to approve a lot of things next week. So just going down through the memo, the bid that we're going to be recommending is from Building Systems, a Hagerstown company that is going to do most of the work, but then there'll be a lot of other purchases related to the project to make it happen. In essence, this phase of the project of the trail is going to look like the first phase, plus we're also adding in the plaza. The plaza will serve the back of the house for VISFA, Maryland Theater, the county building, and then also other things such as the school buses and different things like that. The funding wound up being about 70% grant funded, which is in large part is due to the grants that were required by a lot of the planning staff work and different things that we've been working on for several years. The land acquisitions are all coming together, and I think by the end of May, everything will be in place there. Two things I did want to point out was the public art piece. So the Public Art Commission met, they looked at the space, and what they're recommending is that we do an aerial art piece over the trail right at where it hits the plaza to have a transformative effect on that space. They looked at a lot of different ideas, but their recommendation is that we put something like that together. That would be a call for artists, and it would be professionally done, and that is worked into the budget. Then the name of the plaza, we feel like the plaza should have a name, and we're suggesting the name from the Updegraff family, who conducted business there for decades, that were clothing business and specialized in hats. So we were proposing to name the plaza Hatter's Plaza. There'd be a top hat symbol on some of the medallions that are in the pavement. Also, out on the main facade wall that we have to build on Washington Street, there'll be a top hat pointing to the Hatter's Plaza, a top hat sign, I should say. So that would be kind of a creative way of naming that space. The schedule then would be that in May, we need to wrap up all the land acquisitions. We need to make sure everything's good with the grants. We need to hold the closing with Hager 5. And then construction would hopefully start in June and be completed by roughly September.
That's fast. So cool.
So that's real fast, but I just want to give you an opportunity to ask any questions. The grant agreement with the state, which is attached, has been quite a journey. I've been pressing, Senator Corman's office was essential in helping me get this far. We just can't seem to get the things out of the state to wrap this up, but we're going to try to have everything done for you to approve next week. Susan over at the county has been working with me on this. This is use the leftover money basically from the Barbara Ingram School project, the $600,000 towards the plaza. And it's been a journey, but I think we're almost there. I'll just leave it at that.
You guys have any questions?
I have just one. I've been approached for an interesting request from Leadership Washington County, and I've spoken with you and Steve about it. They are interested in doing a time capsule for what happened in 2020 and during their class. And they were looking for a place to do a time capsule. They'd be responsible for the capsule, they'd be responsible for the contents, and I thought maybe it would be a good idea to incorporate it into the UIP, the trail of some sort. So if that is possible and agreeable, they'd be responsible, and apparently we'll have one more time capsule in the city of Hagerstown. I don't know if Rodney can speak more to this, but there's a couple of them.
There's a time capsule in the square that's due to be open in 2026. It's 50 years ago on the bicentennial of the country. I know there's one at the library as well that was built when it was built, but I don't know if any of us will get to see that one. But this would be one that we could easily work into the Plaza. And I guess Leadership Hagerstown would be responsible for the contents and everything.
Correct.
We have enough budget contingency here, so we could work something like that in.
Are you guys good with that? Sure.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we have a council time capsule?
Yes, we can put stuff in it. We can put stuff in that.
All right,
capsule.
up next, Special Events Guidebook, Kitty Clark. You've had a long day today.
I have had a long day today.
Kitty's been waiting for this moment for about 2 years.
Yeah, like since like my first day on the job.
Oh, gosh.
So, yay. Yes, very pleased to present the Special Events Guidebook to you, which is this, for me anyway, a relatively fat document. This document represents the work of a lot of city staff over many years. In fact, it had been started before it was like Jill handed it to me my first week there, and she's like, this is something that you'll want to work on at some point. So we worked on it. Representatives from HPD, Fire, Parks and Engineering, Public Works, Safety and Risk, DCED, and Scott Nicewarner himself helped to compile all the information and review the document over a period that began pre-pandemic, ceased for about a year, and then we decided to get it cooked fully earlier this year. So that's what we're bringing to you tonight. The guidebook contains really the most pertinent information that any event organizer would need, and provides a way for city staff to capture the scope of any proposed event so that as we work with them, we can best guide the organizer to the implementation of a successful event. There's an application process that goes with the guidebook. The goal would be that they fill out the application and then it culminates in a special event permit, which would be issued upon successful fulfillment of requirements that are stipulated in a special event agreement. There's lots of, pieces, right? Up until now, all that information has been provided to event organizers through logistics committee meetings, phone calls, emails. It's been transmitted, but it's been like this. So it's useful, I think, to have a one document piece that kind of covers a lot of bases. The guidebook would not replace logistics committee meetings. Obviously, we would still meet with people, but we hope it will facilitate production of events, and we expect, as it's already started to happen, as the pandemic is subsiding, people are getting interested about doing events. We would publish this on the city website, and we would have paper copies available. And then if mayor and council are in agreement with this guidebook and the application process, this is on a vote on next week's regular session. So just to quickly go through sort of the highlights. What is a special event? Just to be clear, special events enhance the quality of life for our residents, entice visitors to our city, and have a positive economic impact. They fall into a number of categories such as entertainment, celebration, cultural recognition, fundraising, arts and crafts, displays and sales, and sports demonstrations and competitions. Special events utilize city facilities. They involve a large group of people relative to the site's regular use. They're advertised publicly. They don't regularly occur on the site, and they impact city streets, sidewalks, or public rights of way. The special event guidebook covers a wide range of areas related to, and this is all in the table of contents, which we can really get into if you want. Includes safety, issues dealing with alcohol, food, vendors, overtime city staff, trash and recycling management, street closures, insurance requirements, and how to notify businesses and neighborhoods that could be impacted. The logistics committee, that's made up of staff from HPD, Fire, Public Works, Parks and Engineering, Safety and Risk, Community and Economic Development, and we will continue, as I said, to meet with event organizers to ensure optimal outcome and minimize negative impacts. There's a resource section, which really is just a listing of all the contact information for city departments so that people can contact as they need to directly, and also county resources and state resources, as well as information about our TULIP insurance program. And then there's an addendum which provides sample documents for event organizers' reference. So that could be just, basically copying off a weather script that I prepared for another event, sample, food permits and things like that. So there's an application process. This is where we would capture the scope of the event. So they're asked a lot of different questions about what they're intending to do. It has the hold harmless agreement, embedded within it, and has a planning checklist, which is really just for the event organizer's use. Logistics committee sign-off sheet. This is an internal document. Provides the basis for the agreement and the permit that would culminate. Identifies the functions that each city department will undertake in support of this event. And then the agreement identifies what the organizer has done and will do for their event, insurance, hold harmless, trash management, etc. And it identifies what the city will do for the event. And then this would culminate in a permit. It affirms that the event organizer has entered into an agreement with the city and has fulfilled the requirements to hold a safe and successful special event. And there we go. Got through the PowerPoint. It is a lot of material, but I can't tell you how many phone calls and emails I get from people saying, who do I contact again about, what do I do, how do I get a liquor license? So it seems overwhelming even to me to look at this document. But I think that ultimately it will be really helpful for people that want to do events in Hagerstown. And I think it will help also, right now we have a group of staff that really know their jobs. But we know that as people retire, move on, take new jobs, et cetera, I think it's gonna be really helpful to also have a document that tells the city what we have agreed to do. So, for example, whether we're gonna provide tables and chairs and tents or not, and whether people are required to use HPD overtime or they can hire, outside licensed security officers. So I think there's a lot of really useful information in here that will help actually a lot of people.
Agreed.
Is this going to be available on the city website?
Yes.
Perfect.
Once you guys vote on it next week, we will get it up on the website. Cool. Probably in multiple places, because people enter these kinds of things from lots of different places. And we'll have, a few paper copies available in our office for people that actually still want to have the hard thing right there.
That's great.
Yeah, this is fabulous. Yep.
Yeah.
I get lots of questions too, and then I just ask you, so.
And now I'll be able to
I'll
give
be
you a
like-
link to the website.
And then I'll ask you, and then you'll just send me back to the website.
That's right. Just that's,
Fair enough.
it's
Fair
my
enough.
goal, just to have a link to everything.
Thank you for all your
Thank
hard
you.
work. That's a
Absolutely,
lot.
You're welcome.
All right, request for exemption to city water and wastewater policy. Doug?
Good evening. Here to review a request for exemption to the city's water and wastewater policy under exception number 6 of the city's water and wastewater policy for an economic development project. A little bit about the project is Taylor Bowen's under contract to purchase land at City Corp and Breeze Hill Drive, approximately 16 acres. The anticipated investment is $8 to $10 million, including land and improvements, with a job creation of 25 to 40 individuals. The anticipated development is a speculative industrial warehouse. So estimated water usage is speculative, but is anticipated to be about 400 gallons per day. Procedurally, this has been reviewed by the county. There's a letter of support from the county commissioners in your packet, and this has been reviewed by the Community and Economic Development and Utilities Department for approval. So if supportive, we'd bring this forward to you at next week's regular session for approval. And as of note, this parcel was previously approved under the exception in 2019 with Utility Keystone.
I'm fine.
Is Kristen still on the line?
Yeah. I mean, if anyone understands this MRGA stuff.
I think he had some questions.
Kristen?
Yeah, you look for me?
Yep.
Okay.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right.
I may be wrong, but I believe you had some questions regarding this.
So I don't really have any questions except that to make sure that this is one of the areas that we said, staff should look at with county staff and create these bubbles, if you will, of, where the service is going to be extended to.
Correct, yeah. This is in the staff review from the city and county's discussion last year with the MRGA. This is located in B1 of the MRGA edition map that's in your packet.
Perfect.
All right.
Okay.
Good?
Yes.
Good? Good. All right, city administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to go back a second to this event guidebook. One of the things we've tried to make sure is, as it's been to events, is to make sure that, one, we're able to protect city assets and city resources when it comes to events. But really, the main thing is to protect those that are wanting to have the events, to make sure they have insurance, to make sure that they understand that putting on an event may involve more than what they originally were looking to do, and to make sure we're able to guide them through in a manner that's consistent, but that also they have that information available to them in one central place that they're able to achieve what they're looking to do. And I think you'll see here in just a few minutes that we got plenty of stuff coming down the pike that require that consistency, that we know what kind of resources we're gonna have to put out, and then what the event organizer is gonna need to expect in return. So I just wanted to put that in, and it has been something that every department has had a hand in, and appreciate all the help that was given to Kitty to put this together. I do want to congratulate staff on being selected as a 2020 Green Award recipient by the Maryland Plant Community Awards Program, sponsored by Maryland DNR Forest Service and the Maryland Urban and Community Forest Committee. It's for recognition of work done by city staff in planting and caring for trees in the city. So that was a nice recognition to get. Also, good segue into the city in partnership with the Youth Advisory Council, the Antietam-Conococheague Watershed Alliance, and Maryland DNR will be celebrating Earth Day and Arbor Day at the Hager House this Saturday from 12:30 to 2:30. There'll be a variety of environmentally friendly activities that you have to pre-register for, and you can find all of that information on the website, www.hagerstownmd.org/Parks and Rec altogether, and it'll be under the outdoor programs section. So we look forward, there's always a fun event, look forward to a lot of people being there. Also this Friday, the 23rd, is our first Music on the Square night. This first time event will be featuring the Missing Years from 5:30 to 7:30. And thanks to the Imagine Hagerstown Band Selection Committee, they selected 6 bands through June 11th, and I'm pretty sure we'll probably want to go beyond that, because I think this is going to be a fun time for everybody to come downtown, go to a restaurant, and be able to take in some music. And then lastly, Imagine Hagerstown Fourth Fridays will be starting on May 28th, so we will basically have something downtown every weekend for the next 3 months. The first Fourth Friday will be May 28th, the Kelly Bell Band in University Plaza from 5 to 8. Ash the Artist will be the opening act. And then the June Fourth Friday will be the Amish Outlaws. One of my favorites, and I think favorites of a lot of folks around here. So we look forward to a fun summer to make up a little bit from what we had to do last year. Again, University Plaza, that'll be COVID friendly, just like they were last year. Bring food in. You can picnic in University Plaza at a safe distance with your mask. And look forward to seeing a lot of people there and start enjoying the outdoors again. That's it for me. Thanks.
Can I go last?
Sure. Kristen, do you have anything? All right. Shelley?
Based on some feedback and citizen comments that I've received, I would like to revisit the East and North Avenue
one-way plan and maybe survey a broader area, based on what I've been hearing, and maybe it'll end up with the same result, but to have staff survey a broader area, just to, so we can revisit it again. Just like to make that request
To get two other people to say yes, to do that.
I'm against that,
I know you are.
100%.
I wasn't thinking that you were gonna be one of them.
24 years that I've been involved in city government, I've heard the same cry from the same people for 24 years. And I traveled John Street, I traveled Randolph over the weekend multiple times. And the concern about additional traffic, I honestly, I don't see it at all.
I just don't think that there's any problem like surveying a broader area, that's all. And maybe it'll end up with the same result. So just to be able to revisit it, and maybe we'll end up in the same situation, which is fine. But I don't live there, I don't travel that way. I think it's only fair to make sure that we're asking everyone that is affected by it. That's all.
I'm against that.
I'm fine with revisiting and surveying those areas.
You're the only one left.
Except Kristen, who is not on the call.
I don't never think there's anything wrong with asking more people more questions. I'm a mediator, so I'm okay with it.
All right,
Surveying,
thank you. That's all.
I got nothing.
You're just done.
I had nothing.
I had a pretty fun social weekend, visiting some restaurants this past weekend. So I went to the Dog House and had a meeting there, comedy show hosted by SMU Entertainment on Saturday, which was hilarious. They have another show coming up on May 15th, I believe. Also went to brunch at 28 South. That was tasty. And then went to Prohibition Hub later that day, listened to live music. So all in all, just good fun time, keeping it local. And it wasn't really expensive. It was more of just getting out again and meeting friends and having a good time. That's it.
Good things happening,
Yep.
yes. Bob?
Well, I want to start off by saying that, again, I'm definitely opposed to having to go back out and survey more people about an issue that has been discussed and fallen through the cracks for the last, at least in my tenure, 24 years within the city. It doesn't, logistically, when you look at it, it doesn't make sense that anybody traveling down Potomac Avenue would take Randolph as opposed to taking East Avenue going east, because Randolph goes east also. Doesn't make any sense that those individuals would rather go down Randolph than to go one more block and go down East Avenue. Doesn't make any sense that anybody who is traveling north on Locust Street would take John Street as opposed to taking East Avenue. Makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. John Street is one way east. So I don't see the concern. I know that some people may perceive that they're going to see this abundance of new traffic. I don't believe that will happen, knowing the driving habits of people in this area, knowing my personal driving habits and not travel the same way. I would never do that. I would go down East Avenue, and I don't know anyone's concern of Broadway. I can't register that for some reason. How that has anything to do with either one of those streets, considering the Broadway's two-way and it's not changing, and people are going to, whether they're traveling, south on Potomac or north on Locust, are going to use Broadway like they always use Broadway. But again, we'll just push it back again, and then those people who have sought relief for 2 decades are gonna sit there and continue to wait on relief that's apparently may or may not ever come. Second, during the discussion of panhandling, I asked a couple questions, and Shelley, I heard your comments that no one wakes up one and says, I want to be homeless. I would be interested to find out how many individuals who get cited, when we cite them, maybe Brooks folks or somebody else's can put this together, aren't from this area. Who come here because we provide services, and we do all those things abundantly, as a matter of fact. I'll tell you that last Saturday, I was out picking up food, and I decided, after I saw a group of 5 individuals at the corner there at the gas station at Eastern and the Dual, I decided to sit up in the parking lot and observe for a while. And they were taking turns. They were coming off the median over to where this group stood, and another person would go to the median. So that does 100% happen. Maybe the signs will help. If we get those signs up, especially when it comes to those medians there and over on at the Eastern of Potomac, and then out on Basil Boulevard, I don't know, but whether they'll help or not, but maybe they will. I know that that people listen. I would rather give to those agencies that can provide those services. I believe that's where the support has to go. I don't think you're ever going to get anybody to change how they give. No matter, because that's in their mind. I mean, you see somebody, and if you're available and you happen to be at the right place at the right time, 90% of the people are gonna give something, because that's what we do as people. But I believe we have to figure out a better way to handle this than what we're doing, what we have been doing. So hopefully, again, the signs will help. Maybe a little bit more enforcement, maybe, those individuals here this evening can get out there more frequently and assist. Maybe information, getting information out to the public about, maybe, where do you donate as opposed to handing out money or whatever. Maybe that'll help. I don't know. I understand when people have a tough time. I truly do. And I worked on this back in 2006, so it's not like it's my first rodeo. Other than that, that's about it for me, Mayor.
That's it?
And that's probably more than I've said in the last 7 meetings.
It is. All right, so I just have one thing tonight. We really want to meet with the Board of County Commissioners. We really, really, really want to sit down with the Board of County Commissioners. We just want to have a talk. And we don't want there to be negativity. We don't want there to be this back and forth between city, county. We are a big part of the county. And we really just want to settle the differences and get it all out on the table. So we're running out of options, right? We have tried talking to them. We've tried emailing them. Staff has emailed them. We've had conversations like this that are streamed on YouTube and Facebook, and starting to think, like, how can we just get them to the table? Do we have to send flowers? Do we have to send pizza? Do we have to send cards? Running out of ideas. So we figured, you know what, let's get creative. And recently, TikTok is all the explosion. So I employed my 13-year-old daughter to make a TikTok video for me for a request for the Board of County Commissioners. So Board of County Commissioners, I've emailed, we've called, and now I'm going to make a fool out of myself. So this is for you, Washington County Board of Commissioners. Maybe.
What you doing? What you doing? Where you at? Where you at? Oh, you got plans. You got plans. Don't say that. Shut your. I'ma leave the door open. I'ma leave the door
nailed it.
Seriously, pizza on me. Let's meet. Come on. This meeting is adjourned.
Hello and welcome to Council Wrap, and don't adjust your sets. This is not a repeat. Yes, Kitty Clark was here just a few weeks ago, and the Community Events Coordinator is back again. I don't know if you drew the short straw or if this is beneficial. We hope it's beneficial.
It's beneficial,
You know,
of course it's beneficial.
This is what I like to refer to as the value added to the council meeting. So in that vein, we're going to have to bring some of that stuff. And actually, the city administrator sort of teased that we were going to be talking about this, but then he went on and sort of lifted the.
He lifted the veil.
Yeah, he did, just a little bit, just a little bit.
Yep.
So you were here presenting to the council this guidebook that you
Yes.
said had been a long time in coming. And you talked about this a little bit during the meeting, but just to reiterate a little bit, what do you hope will come out of this? Because here's what I envision. I envision you're going to get different questions now that the guidebook's out there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's certainly a great foundation for people. So let's talk about that a little bit first, because it's certainly been a long time in the making and a lot of effort that you put into this.
Yeah, a long time in the making for sure. There's a lot of people that have great ideas about an event. I mean, and they're good ideas. The vision of an event is really different than the implementation of the event. So to make that jump from the vision, which is awesome, to the feet on the ground doing the work, this guidebook is meant to bridge that gap. People say, oh, I want to do this event. Can I put a tent? Can it be a band? Can I have alcohol? Suddenly it's like, that's a lot. You just said a tent, a band, alcohol. It doesn't sound like a lot. It seems like it should be easy.
Mm-hmm.
But because it's on city property, so as Scott alluded to, there's there's liability at stake. And so that's one concern for sure. But then there's also just, we want the events that get put on in Hagerstown to be great events. And we do a good job helping event organizers now. We want more event organizers to come forward and be ready to jump in and do events here. And this, I hope, is going to be, I really do think the timing is excellent, because I can feel it. I don't know if you can feel it. Councilwoman Burnett alluded to this. People are starting to go out again, and there's stuff starting to happen again. And I've been getting a lot of phone calls and inquiries. People want to do stuff. They want to get stuff going. And so I want this guidebook to be ready so I can say, here, read everything here, think about it, see how much time you really need to get this done, and then call me back and we'll talk. And when you're ready to really talk, then we'll do it. Because I don't think they realize, there really is a checklist in there that's like a full page or more of did you get insurance? Did you get a liquor license? Did you get the exemption to the open container law? All that stuff. So
Yeah,
this is meant to be helpful.
Yeah, it certainly lays the foundation of understanding for someone who is coming to the city saying, I want to put on an event. Because I say this all the time, people come up with ideas all the time, but like you said, the difficult part is the implementation thereof, because there are a lot of steps. And the more things that you envision as the person who comes up with the idea, the more difficult it is to get it done. So when it happens in the end, and I think this is the great thing for people really, is when that event goes off and it's a success, nothing feels better than that. And I'm sure it feels good for you to be able to facilitate something like that. So this really brings that perfect synergy and meshes that together.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I really do think that the city staff is really, I've said this before and I really mean it. We have a great, the guys who serve, and it is mostly men. I'm currently the sole female on this committee, but the logistics committee has some really top-notch people on there who really want the event to be successful. So whatever their area of expertise is, whether it's where to place your tent so you have optimal, layout, or whether it's, if you're gonna have a cooking vendor there, they need to be so many feet from the building, or whether it's you need, streets closed and barricades brought there. We have guys that really know each and every bit of that, right? So that, it's great.
Yeah, a lot of
events here.
Yeah, a lot of expertise and a lot of pride taken in making those events a success between the public and the person who between the city and the public. All told. Now, speaking of events, the perfect segue, and we didn't talk about this last time, and that is Music on the Square, and it's right around the corner coming up this Friday, the very first in that series.
So Music on the Square is something that actually I had started to do a few kind of informally pre-pandemic, and then the pandemic hit, and then it got put on the, way back burner, like super back burner. But then as winter was coming to an end and spring was coming in, there was a discussion about, how can we get people downtown? How can we get them to dine downtown? Do we close the streets? And I was like, let's try putting some music out there. Every Friday, we'll have something happening on the square or somewhere in that vicinity so that people are coming down. There's more than just eating to come down to.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And it turns out there was already a number of things planned on Friday nights, so the Music on the Square, between now and the end of June, we only had to do 6 of them. Honestly, not had to, that sounds terrible, but I mean, there were only 6 dates to really program.
Right.
And I will say this, I have a small but mighty band selection committee, which has been helping with the Imagine Hagerstown series, that's the 4th Friday series. And we had a number of artists who had already submitted proposals to be part of the Imagine Hagerstown series, so we just vetted them for Music on the Square at the same time, which was great. It was suddenly great to have this pool of applicants, essentially. And it was pretty easy to program a nice diverse lineup over the next, couple of weeks, not more than a couple of months, really.
Yeah, how would you characterize that lineup? Is there, I know it's pretty eclectic across the board.
I'll say this, they're all local, which is awesome. That's really something I want to do. There's people doing, like the Missing Years do sort of, light rock covers, country folk, that kind of vein, and it's just guitar and vocals, really. I have a jazz trio coming in. Bob Sykes is coming in the following Friday. The week after that is Raising Moxie, which is a male-female duo, guitar, vocals. A couple weeks after that, we've got the Anita Thomas Quartet. She's multi-instrumentalist, jazz-oriented, so it's going to be jazz blues. Who's coming in? The Howlers, which is blues, and Wild Whispers, which is like an indie folk duo.
Wow, very
Yeah.
cool.
So it is an eclectic, collection, which is cool.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to say, because I sort of neglected to put it in a lot of the PR that went out up front, people should bring chairs. It didn't occur to me that people would actually come and just want to spend 2 hours listening to music, but why wouldn't they? Especially if the weather's nice.
Sure.
Put your chair in the back of your car and come on down.
Take full advantage, make yourself comfortable, and as you said in the press release, and I think very well stated. I mean, you got music that's going to inspire people to dance, and then music that is just going to kind of be that kick back and relax at the end of the work week there on a Friday. So that's perfect. And as far as Fridays are concerned, looking forward to Imagine Hagerstown and the first 4th Friday, not that far away either, coming up next month now. So, man, as much preparation time as it takes to get to these things, they sort of sneak up on you in the end.
Right. And the 2 Imagine Hagerstowns, the May 28th and the June 25th, are the artists that were supposed to play a year ago. And we were able, thank the date, the calendar gods above, right?
Yeah.
We were able to just postpone them a full year to the 4th Friday of the respective months. So, working with the booking agents, they knew, everybody was very accommodating in being able to postpone and reschedule. So, really excited about those groups.
Yeah, who knew that was going to work out that way in the end? Because last year at this time, everything just seemed like it was never going to end. And now I believe we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, it's not a time just to act like we have been acting, a couple of years ago. But at the same time, we're certainly getting back to some semblance of normalcy at this point.
And I do think that, being outside, after a year of this, I think we've kind of learned the routines, people should still have their masks, people should still socially distance outside of their, household or their pod, whatever their little grouping is.
Sure.
And I think people are mostly pretty understanding of that and, respectful.
Yeah, I think so too. We've been doing it for so long, so certainly look forward to those things.
Yeah.
Anything else that we don't know about that might be coming up down the road?
I'll just mention some of the couple of other events that are happening between now and the end of June.
Okay.
On some of those other Friday nights. These are not our events, but they're events that the logistics committee met with and helped implement the logistical side of. We have the Barbara Ingram School for the Arts Street Festival. It's called the Do What Moves You Festival. That's on May 14th in the evening. That's a Friday. That should be really fun. Those, anybody who's seen the BISFA kids perform knows that they don't mess around. They get down to business. That should be a really vibrant, fun night of watching our, the rising next generation of performers. And then on June 18th, we have Juneteenth, which there was some discussion about the Juneteenth event in tonight's session.
Yep.
So Juneteenth is happening in University Plaza on Friday night the 18th and also Saturday the 19th. But also happening on June 18th is an event that's happened for years, which is the downtown Torre Washington County bike race.
Man.
Antietam Velo Club, so that'll be happening on that night also.
That's amazing. There is a lot going on in a very short period of time.
There's something every Friday night between now and the end of June.
Man,
It's
oh,
good.
man. Well, Kitty, as always, good talking to you, and
Yeah.
thanks for spending a little bit of time. Once again, I don't know if it's drawing the short straw or what it is, but always great to
Well,
talk to you. And
It's a good opportunity to show off what we're doing here.
well, it is,
Yeah.
and I love the insight into how some of these things come to be, and
Yeah.
you know these things right off the top of your head. When I said music on the square, all 6 of them
Boom, boom, boom.
like that. So that's impressive. So that's a wrap for Kitty Clark. I'm Wes Decker. Thanks for watching this time, and we'll see you next time on Council Wrap.